Welcome to the Wisdom Tips, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm your host, Dr. Green, and I will be talking to you today about part 3 of overcoming the ugly spirit of jealousy. All right. So I want you to go ahead and share this broadcast with someone. I hope you enjoyed the last episode 1 on jealousy. I got a lot of feedback on it. So just share if you like. And also, if you would like, hit the notification button. So when we have new content, you will know that we're coming in with new things. And so you can join us then. Okay. So let's talk about jealousy tonight. I have some exciting news after I talk to you a little bit about it. Just want to jump right on in. So again, please share this broadcast. I'm so excited about this broadcast. I just don't even know what to do, but I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna slow down. I really know you're gonna enjoy my guest tonight. She's phenomenal. So before I get started, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Let's go back over what is jealousy. What is jealousy? We talked about last week that jealousy is a complex emotion, and it ranges from feelings of suspicion, rage, and humiliation. And it strikes all kind of people, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you married, whether you're single, it doesn't matter. It's just all over the world because people are going through things and they see what other people have, and sometimes they get so upset because they're not moving forward like other people. So sometimes it gets in their spirit, and it's easy sometimes to feel jealous about things, especially when you're not doing the things or having the things in your life that you've been praying about or working to get. All right. So it's an emotion. Remember, it's an emotion that comes over you. It can be good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes we can be jealous, because we want something that maybe our friends have, and maybe you still love that friend and you don't hate them, but you get a little bit jealous. But you get home and you get yourself together. That's where I want you to go when you get like that. I don't want you to go the other direction where you begin to hate the person. All right. So, it's an emotion, and sometimes you're going to get there. We all have got there where we get a little jealous sometimes, but we don't want you to go the other direction where you just begin to hate on the person. And next thing you know, you do something crazy. All right. So it's an emotion. And sometimes when people have relationships, and they fall in love with somebody. You have some people that feel like they own the person, and they want to control the person in some kind of way. And they even become sometimes to the point that they even threaten the person because they don't want the person to look at somebody else or speak to somebody else. So when you get in that toxic type of relationship, it should be time for you to walk away from that, because sometimes it can get even more dangerous. And we talked about that on last week. So, jealousy is an emotion. Yes, sometimes you're going to be jealous, but you need to have wisdom. And when you're dealing with the emotions of jealousy, it could be that you're just having a bad day. It could be that you're just tired of working so hard and you're not being able to get the things that you want and other things that people want. And you just let your mind just run rapid with all kind of negativity. So we want you to crush that negativity, let it go, take a deep breath, and just know that maybe that wasn't your season, that to get a new car like your friend got. Maybe it wasn't your season to get a new house like one of your other friends got. And all this kind of stuff is just coming at you at one time. But remember this, we talked about seasons a few episodes ago. Your season will come. You just got to wait on it. All right. All right. So why do we get jealous? Another reason why we get jealous, research says that we get jealous because it's at a root cause. It's a root cause of jealousy that sometimes includes low self-esteem. And sometimes it can be caused because somebody just narcissistic, where they feel like they want to possess somebody, and they, want to do what they think they can do to them, and even treat them like they think they own the person. So we do, like you said, that's the negative. Like I talked about, that's the negative jealousy that you don't want to have in your spirit at all. Because once you open that Pandora box, the enemy will come in, he'll see what you're doing, and he'll make it worse. Sometimes jealousy comes from fear of abandonment. And then it also comes from some time of just being discouraged. And that could be some of the greatest motivators. But isn't it kind of silly to think you can tear someone down, and not even try to build them up? Now, isn't that crazy? But that's what we do sometimes. So we don't want to go there. Keep the positive, not the negative mindset when you're dealing with jealousy. Okay. Now that's what I have for part two of jealousy. Right now, I am so excited tonight for this episode because I have a special guest tonight. Her name is Lashanna Alfred, and I want to talk to her tonight about her book and her story. So you don't want to miss this. It's phenomenal, and it's going to encourage you tonight. So go ahead and share, share, share. Lashanna Alfred is CEO and founder of Unchanged Counseling Services, as well as Unchained Behavior Agency. Lashanna is the author, visionary speaker, and a teacher who shares her personal experiences while guiding individuals on how to build their future with their own ideas and breaking free from false limiting beliefs. Please help me give a warm wisdom tip welcome to Lashanna. Hello, Lashanna. I am
Hello, thank
so
you for having me.
thankful. I am just so thankful you decided to join us today. How are
Yes,
you doing?
I am good. I am good. Today is going very well. I'm actually on vacation now, so
Well, that's great. I know you're doing good. You're on vacation. Wow. I wish I could go. I can't. I need one real bad. Pray for me. So
yes.
we want to know just a little bit about you. I know I read a little bit of your bio, but it's so much more to you than the story. Um, I was able to meet you last weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, at the All Star Conference, Authors Conference, and it was such a pleasure talking to you. The energy was right. I was getting so excited about some of the tips and things you was sharing with me that was in your book and even in the program that you have. And I just wanted you to come back here on live on Wisdom Tips so you can tell my audience what we can do to get our mind together. Because some of our minds, especially during Christmas time and holidays like this, it can be all
Mhm.
messed up with stress, anxiety, fear of getting stuff that you need to get done. And so I'm just so excited that you're here tonight, to kind of help us out. So, who are your greatest influence before you get started with your story? Who's your favorite influence that maybe perhaps sparked a little something in you before you started your company?
I have to say, Dr. Juanita Bynum
Wow.
was definitely a great influence when I started this, my transformation and journey.
Well,
Yeah.
that's great.
Mhm.
That's wonderful because she is a
Mhm.
powerful woman of God. She's knowledgeable for the Word of God. I listen to her myself sometime, and she's been around a long time. So when
Mhm.
you see people like that and that they have bounced back for several setbacks and being overwhelmed and things happening to them in their life, and the scriptures just totally changed them because they gave their life to the Lord. It's phenomenal to be able to listen and sit up under great speakers like that, and especially being a woman, because a lot of times we
Absolutely.
don't have a lot of examples of powerful women of God. We got a lot of men out there, but we do
Mhm.
have a lot of powerful women. We just haven't heard their stories. And that's
Yeah.
why we want to hear your story tonight. Lashana, tell us your story and what was the inspiration for you
Yes.
uh, starting your company?
Yeah. And
Thanks.
so the listeners may be wondering, like, why did I say Dr. Bynum? And when I think about my life, so my mom and my dad was both murdered when I was younger. And
Wow.
so the way I was raised in this drug infested environment that, I basically was taught to get it however you can get it, right? And I remember thinking that I didn't want to be like the people that I was around, right? Like I love my family. We were close, knit family, but I knew I didn't want to do some of the things, but unfortunately I didn't have a role model to follow as it relates to what I actually wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
so as I'm going through life, I began to make some of the same, choices, and some of the choices landed me in prison in a different country. And so I was incarcerated in Trinidad from 1999 to 2002 and got transferred back to America through our treaty transfer. But it was in that prison experience that actually brought about the change, right? And so the title of my company is You Change. And in that change, I pull out the word CAN, which really means you can change, right? Because
Mm,
of the way my life was built, I didn't think change was possible, right? I
right.
thought I was handed a bad deal, right? A bad debt or a bad hand, and that I was gonna lose with it, right? But
Hmm.
then once I got in, I was incarcerated. That's where my change, took place, because while I was incarcerated, I was forced to come face to face with who I wanted to be and who I had become. And so
Oh,
that's the inspiration behind You Change, or You Can Change LLC.
that's a powerful testimony. So tell me again, you said you came to yourself.
Hmm.
What made you come to yourself? I
Yeah.
know you were in prison
Hmm.
for quite a long time,
Hmm.
but you said one day
Hmm.
something
Yeah.
just came to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
What was
So
that experience like?
yeah, so I remember being in the hole. So if you're not familiar with,
In the
what
whole,
happens
please
in the hole.
explain to the audience what that is.
So the hole is another kind of confinement, right, away from the population. And so I got in a fight with one of the officers,
Hmm.
and I'm pregnant. I got incarcerated when I was 6 weeks pregnant. And
Stop
so
right there. Before you, I know I'm cutting you off, but wait a
it's
minute.
okay.
Ooh, this is a lot to hold on to right here. What you telling me? You was also pregnant. That had to be. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't even imagine what you're feeling, the feelings you were feeling, and the things that you were going through in that
Yeah.
environment. Because they said in those type of environments overseas, it's not a pretty sight, and it's not a lot of care for the inmates. Is that true?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you were
And
pregnant. Go ahead, pick it
yeah,
up from there.
and
I'm
and
sorry.
they didn't like Americans, right?
They
For
didn't
whatever
like
reason.
Americans.
For
Wow.
whatever reason, right? So here I am, already locked up away from my two boys at home, and I'm pregnant, right? And so when you think about like the mindset, I was trying to figure out what I could do, to miscarry, to do something, because they wasn't giving me any prenatal care. Really wasn't even expecting it. And so it was a particular officer that was provoking me. She just kept doing,
Mm.
silly stuff. Like she would lock me outside the cell,
What?
just different things. So
Mm.
one morning I end up, doing something to her to cause the fight or whatever, and I
Hmm.
end up being in a hole.
Wow.
So I'm in the hole, isolated from the regular population. And it was that moment where I began to pray, because I always believed in God, always, just believed God existed, just because of the heavens and the earth. And so, but I wasn't raised in church. And
Hmm.
so here I am in this, third world country, and I'm there and I'm face to face, right, with who I have become versus who I wanted to be.
Oh,
And
stop right there. Stop right
mhm,
there.
okay, okay.
Who I had become and who I wanted to be. Did y'all hear that, audience?
Mhm.
Who are you right now? Who
Yes.
do you want to be and who you are now? You can
Yes,
make that change. You don't have to be
ab-
jealous of anybody. You're
absolutely.
fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes,
That is
absolutely.
powerful.
Yes,
Go ahead, Lashonda.
absolutely. And so it was while I was, isolated from, the greater population, I was again forced to begin to go inward. And even when we think about that jealousy, right? Jealousy, although it's an internal thing, is sparked from external stuff, right? That we
Mm,
feel like external, whether it's people, places, things, owe us something, right?
mm,
And so that's the one thing. Once I realized who I am, right? Once I became or gained a better understanding of who I was, it changed how I seen other women. It changed
mm.
how I seen, the world, right? It just created this complete change. And so
Yes.
You Change counseling and consulting is very fitting, because everything surrounds go back to, no matter what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Hmm.
you can change your perspective. So I teach individuals using a cognitive behavioral model, right?
Hmm.
Where I begin to help them see that we think events control our emotions. So
Hmm.
we experience a breakup, or, a bad boss, or a loss of a loved one.
Hmm.
Those are events. And I teach
Okay.
people that the events in life we
Hmm.
cannot change, right?
Hmm.
We cannot change those events. But what people don't understand is it's another step that's between events and emotions. And that
Mm.
other steps is thoughts. So my thinking about the event is what controls my emotions. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so the same person, I can have a loved one who passed on, and my thinking can be, oh my God, life will never be the same. And although it won't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can have these catastrophic type of thoughts, and it will cause me to want to die with that individual or to not live. But if I
Mm-hmm.
shift my thinking and
And
start
so,
thanking God for,
mm-hmm.
the 5 years, the 20 years, the 50
Mm-hmm.
years, that I've had with somebody, then my emotions will
Mm-hmm.
change.
So
Right. And
it's
this can be a hard thing, right? And
right.
some of my clients, they'll be like, I don't know. It's hard for the mind to grab that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I teach them and I tell them to just practice it, just to see, they'll come back and say, okay, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
But I
And you,
promise you, if we
mm.
master that, we master our lives.
Well, I think what you said, one thing that to me started the whole thing far as knowing who you are. You
Hmm.
said when you found out who you were, you no longer began to be jealous of people or places and things. And I
Yes.
think with the mindset, like you were saying, once you know who you are, you can go back and then them deep things, them dark things when you were young and when you were a teenager and things
Yes.
that happened to you or your life or your family, you can go back to those things then and pull them out and be able to get the freedom that you need because
Mhm.
now the key word was you knew yourself.
Yes.
Because when we don't know ourselves, we're trying to be everybody else. That's why the jealousy comes.
Absolutely.
We want that same outfit. I see her guy. We want the same hair do. We want the same car, the same home, the same outfits. Because we
Yes.
see somebody else, we're looking over here, but we're not looking within. And you talked
Hmm.
about looking within. When we look
Yes.
within ourselves, we don't need those other things to validate us. But if you don't know who you are, that's when the jealousy, the ugly spirit of jealousy comes, and you begin to start, like they say, hating on people.
Absolutely.
You mad at their
Absolutely.
beauty, you mad at their looks, you mad at their money, you mad at their husband, their boyfriends, their children. You just begin to hate everything about the person because you want to
Yes.
be like that person because you
Mhm.
don't know who you are. Would you
Absolutely.
agree with that, Lashanna?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to add to that, once you understand who you are, you begin to understand or not even want what belongs to someone else, right?
Say it again.
It-
Say it again. Woo.
Once you understand who you are, you will
Yes.
begin to, not even want what belongs to someone else, right?
Mm,
And so even when we think about this thing called, jealousy, it
mhm,
took me back to Cain and Abel, right?
mhm.
So they both felt they were doing the right thing. They both gave of what, they had. But however, one became jealous because it was like, wait, as if someone was being picked over them.
Right,
But
right.
when you realize, like, wait, hold on, nobody can take my spot. Like, I don't even want to be in a position longer than I'm supposed to be in that position. Because at the end of the day, if you're somewhere that you're
Mm,
not supposed to be for too long, it's
yes.
going to create drama.
Mm.
You
It's
know,
gonna create what now?
it's
Drama.
it's going to create drama. you
Yes.
know.
Oh
And
my
so, yeah,
goodness.
but here's the thing, all of this came about as a result of my lived experience, right? My
Say it
lived
again. Your
experience,
lived experience.
my lived experience. Because when
Mm,
I got released, I was already like on the road, understanding that the meaning and the purpose of my life. And so, me going to school and getting my, bachelor's in social work and then my master's in social work and doing it, all of that, that was the key to unlock some of the natural doors, right? But the
mm,
anointing that's on my life to bring about or to assist with bringing about change didn't come from me going to school. That
mm.
came from me not giving up when I was going through.
Tell it, tell it. You going to church now, right now. Tell it. All
Yes,
right.
yes,
So when this is a good point because the next question I was going to ask you is when did you realize that you were gifted and called to do what you're doing? And you basically just told us. Can you
absolutely.
elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I realized it while I was still incarcerated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it was there that I had to make a covenant, right, with God in the aspect of knowing that I was going back to my environment. And I
Mm,
knew that I didn't want to go back to a lifestyle, right? Even though I was going back to the environment. And even before I got incarcerated, I used to always ask a question like, why the recidivism rate was so high. And
Yes.
I looked at it because people were going back to their same environment. But then
Mm,
when I had to experience it, I
mm,
realized that guess what? I can be in this environment, but the environment doesn't have to be in me. And
mm,
so, although I was staying with my grandmother at the time, my uncle, was on drugs, so nothing had changed, right? But at the end of the day, what changed was my internal desire. I no longer had a desire for quick fixes, quick
mm.
money, quick nothing, and so it was a covenant that I made even before I got released.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That is awesome. That is amazing, amazing story. So, what was another defining moment in your life after you gave that covenant to the Lord? You knew where you was going, what you was going to do, what you were, and who you was. When you went back to those environments, you had to stop and try to refocus of who you was and go back to where you were when you made that covenant with God. And
Mhm.
so all of that, I know it wasn't easy. It had to be hard because once you grow up in an environment, that's all you know. It's like a limited belief. It's just certain things that you used to doing or you've seen that has happened and you grew up like that. You had no other choice but keep doing the
Mhm.
same thing. But you
Right.
broke that curse. You broke that generational curse. God had
Absolutely.
to put you somewhere, not only in a prison, but in the hole, away from everybody. And
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
said that you were by yourself, you were secluded, and that's when you found God. I want to talk to someone right now. Sometimes that's where we need to be. We need to be secluded away from everybody, away from the cell phones, away from friends, family. God sometimes will put you in a place that you don't have no other reason, no other way to do but sit up and listen to him. It could be
Mhm.
on your deathbed, it could be on your sick bed, it could
Mhm.
be in prison. But
Yes.
God will get your attention, and you don't want to go as far as Lashanna went. You don't want to go through what she went through because some of y'all wouldn't be able to handle it. You probably wouldn't even came out alive. But God knew what was in her. So the Lord was speaking to me the other day to she said, tell the people, don't play with me. So I'm telling
Mm.
somebody right now, don't play with God, because if you play with God, you're going to get in trouble. All right. So what was another defining moment? I know you got so much to tell us, you can't tell it all, but what was another defining moment that helped you move forward into your business and start your business? What was that
Mm.
defining moment that caused you to do something like that
Mhm.
when you made
So,
a decision?
yeah, and so it ironically, right? I began to here I am, raised in a drug infested environment, and so when I got released, I ended up working at a drug and alcohol facility. And so in working and doing that, because when I first started You Change, it was publishing. And so I actually published my first book, Behind Bars, A Chance to Change, as a result of that, right? So I talk about my prison experience, but I talk about how I was behind bars in my mind long before I was
Mm,
physically behind bars. And so that's where You Change started, but then it just evolved,
mm,
right? And so, but I started it because I was coming back home. I had have a felony, and so I didn't want society and the blockages, right? The
mhm.
system, the way the system is set up, to cause me to feel as if I had no other choice but to go back to a lifestyle. And
Right.
so that's what caused me to, continue with the You Change, the publishing. And then once I got my independent license, I was able to transition it over to my private practice, and then now I have a behavioral health all under You Change counseling and consulting.
Well, I am so excited to meet you, Lashonda. You have really blessed me. You blessed me last weekend, and now you blessing me again. And
Oh,
I even told her the at in Atlanta for my audience, listening audience. Although I'm a counselor, been one for 25 years. I told her, I said, I need to go sit up under you. You need to tell me some things, because the stuff that she went through and how she came out on the other side, and the hundreds of people she's helping every day, it's just amazing. I was so excited to meet her because that's what it's all about, helping each other's. But right now, LaShawn, we're going to go to break. And to those of you in the audience, we're going to go to break. But when we come back, we're going to share some wisdom tips with you right after we finish this conversation with LaShonda, okay? So at this time, we're going to go ahead to our break. But before we go, I want to ask you again if you would please share this broadcast so other people can hear it. It's some people out there that's hurting, that's going through some stuff, maybe like LaShonda and me have went through in my lives, and God helped us bounce back from setbacks. I know it's somebody out there that need to hear this story. So please share and hit the notification button and like, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Tina J. Ramsey, and I want to share with you about CTR Media Network. Have you heard? CTR Media Network is a new standard of podcasting with over 30 plus podcasters. We reach 350 million global listeners worldwide in over 50 plus countries across all major podcasting and social media platforms. We have featured over 1,000 guests. What we specialize in is helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and fellow podcasters expand their visibility on our platform. We're all about positioning with visibility, connections, and teaching you how to monetize what you do. Let me tell you something. If you're a business owner, we have sponsorships opportunities. We have commercial slots. We also have opportunities for you to be a featured guest on any of our shows. So what are you waiting for? CTR Media Network is who we are, and this is where you need to be. So go to ctrmedianetwork.com and click our store feature so that you can see which opportunity fits your life and your budget so that we can get started working with you today.
Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
Welcome back to Wisdom Tips. If you're just joining us, we're discussing how to overcome the ugly spirit of jealousy with my special guest, Lashanna Alfred, as well. She's telling us her story and some phenomenal things that she's been doing in her company. And so, Lashanna, now that you're back, we want to ask you to tell us a little bit about your books that you have.
Okay. So the first book, like I said, is Behind Bars, A Chance to Change. And that talks about how I was behind bars in my mind long before I was behind bars physically. My latest book, which they just showed on the screen, is Justice Wears a Dress. Now, I am really excited about that book. That's my fourth book. Let me tell you about the other two. The second book is The Power of Perception, Healing from the Inside Out. Dealing with some of those internal things so we can begin to see, the healing take place in our lives. And then the third book is Ladies Take Your Man Back. The man stands for mature, assertive nature. That book is really to help women who have been through breakups, divorce, and just having a hard time seeing themselves differently, right? And
Mhm.
because a lot of times when we experience things, we begin to blame ourselves. I should have known better. It's my fault, those different things. So that book, Ladies Take Your Man Back, Mature Assertive Nature, is the third book. But I'm especially proud of the fourth book, Justice Wears a Dress, The
Mm.
Power of a Woman's Voice. Really helping women understand, how we are better together, right? But we cannot be together if we don't deal with heal from some of the trauma that we've been through, but understanding that, wait, hold on, our voices matter. When you
Mm.
think about the Trayvon Martin, when you think about, some of our young men who've been killed at the hands of, police, right? And I'm just sharing this because this is really what inspired it. When I looked at the justice system and how how it's different, right?
Mm.
For women, men, black women, white women, just how it's different. And really being able to look at how do we begin to own our voice. And it
Mhm.
first starts with us healing within. So yeah, justice wears a dress, the power
Just
of a woman's voice.
mm. Did y'all get that? Justice wears a dress. Could you please, Brooke, put it on the screen where we can contact Lashonda to get her books? I was able to hold them in my hands and I purchased one. And I am so sorry. I think I got the one about the dress,
Yeah.
Justice in the Dress.
Hmm.
What's the title again?
Justice wears a dress,
Yeah,
the power
okay.
of a
Just want
woman's
to make
voice.
sure. Yes. So please go to her website and get the book, and you're gonna really, really be blessed. I am so excited you're with us, Lashonda. Before we leave, though, I want to know what you think you're gonna see yourself doing the next 5 to 7 years from now.
Hmm. In the next 5 to 7 years, I will be focused more on training, just training other professional social workers
Mm-hmm.
and people in the helping field, because I'm noticing that a lot of helpers, right, those in the helping field, don't have a safe place that they can go to. And so, really providing more training and traveling to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that my behavioral health is kind of, I just started it this year, and so making sure that that's running and flowing well. But yeah, I'll be doing more traveling and training for professional helpers.
Well, Lashana, can you talk to them a little bit about what you talked to me last weekend about trauma? Because you're a specialist in trauma therapy, and
Yeah.
it was two of those things, two of the programs, not two of the things that you do to help your clients bounce back from trauma and
Hmm.
and disappointments in life. Can you
Hmm.
share a little bit of both of those therapies that you do that you
Yes.
your patients and they were able to get healed and bounce back? So you don't have to always take pills out there. Those of you that are in the audience, I'm not knocking pills. That's what your doctor asks you to do or tell you to do. Please do that. But it is ways that you can get totally free from the bondage and the depression and all the things that you're experiencing and the trauma that you
Hmm.
experience not only as a young child but even maybe now as an adult. So I'm just going to leave the floor to Lashonda so she can talk to us a little bit more about the therapy and treatments that she do at her clinic.
Yeah, and so one of the techniques that I use, I'm certified in what we call EMDR, and EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's a therapeutic technique that we use to assist with trauma. What people don't realize is that trauma gets stored in our brain, which causes us to be startled. That's where we get that fight, flight, or freeze from. And so, just say if you experience molestation, or if you watched your mom being abused or some type of violence when you were younger, and it creates this fear, right? This feeling of I'm not safe. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that gets stored in a part of our brain. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when we're going through life and different things are happening, and just say someone walks up behind you or somebody that you're in a relationship with, walks up behind you and touch you or something, and you find yourself jumping.
Mm-hmm.
That's stored trauma, in the brain. So what we do, I use tappers, what we call tappers. So if you're in my office, I'll hand you tappers, and it creates the bilateral stimulants in the brain. And so I will have you go back to your earliest memory of feeling unsafe or feeling like it was your fault. So first I have you identify a negative cognition that you may have, even if you know it's not true, right? So we may know that it's not true, that it's my fault, but yet I was always blamed for stuff as a child. And so now when I'm going through life, then I was blamed when I was in high school, or I was blamed when I, got the breakup or I lost the job. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I do it on a virtual level, I use the screen, and I will literally use my hand, and I will have you follow my hand. And what you would do, your eyes would just go back and forth, left, right. And you will be thinking, though, about that traumatic experience. You'll be thinking about the traumatic experience. And what it's doing with that left, right movement is
Mm-hmm.
actually causing your brain to experience what you experience a little differently.
So in
And
other words, it's like flashbacks. You get your memory just goes back to where that trauma first started, and it's inside of you, and that's where the fear comes from too. Even
Mhm,
if, when I'm doing therapy with a lot of the ladies that I've done over the years, they have
mhm.
a spirit of fear all the time, about fear of losing their jobs, fear of losing their house,
Yeah.
fear of losing their children, fear of
Mhm,
losing themselves, fear of
mhm.
finances, just always just fear, fear, fear. And then they start having anxiety because
Yeah.
that pent up, like you said, trauma is inside of them. So when you do that eye movement, it kind of flashes back. Is that what you're trying to explain to me?
Well, not necessarily flashes back. So watch this. Oftentimes we like to repress. So this is what I'm finding. When we go through things, a lot of people think, well, that was just in the past. Well,
Mm-hmm.
here's the deal. It's not past if it's still affecting you, right?
Okay.
And
Say
it
that
doesn't have
again.
to
Say
be,
that again. If it's not what
it's not in the past if it's still affecting you.
happening
It's
right now.
present.
Did y'all hear
It's
that? It's
present.
not in the past if it's still happening right now. That means you haven't got
If it's
delivered
still
from
affecting you,
it.
right?
It's still
And so
affecting
sometimes our people, right? And I say our people, as in Black people, we have been trained to take a licking and keep on ticking,
you.
right? Where we get abused, we experience all this stuff from slavery. We get abused, we experience this stuff, and we're supposed to just keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this right here, watch this. I did one with a young lady who didn't realize until after we did this process why she doesn't like figurines. And
Mm.
the memory that she had was that came up was when she was younger, her mom, something happened, and her mom took this figurine from her and threw
Mm.
it, right?
Mm.
And that was traumatic for her. So when
Wow.
we're talking about traumatic stress, it doesn't have to be rape, sexual abuse, or anything. It can just be anything that when you think about it now, it creates this disturbance, right? Within you. So what the eye movement does, it creates the bilateral stimulants in the brain. The reason why I have you thinking about what you're experiencing, because we have to be able to look at it so the brain can be able to process it
Okay.
differently,
Okay.
right? Because
But
a lot of times, even at 20, so watch this. You have a
mhm.
3-year-old who may have a tantrum, right? And may
Mhm.
be crying, or a 5-year-old. We understand that. It's like, okay, you 3, you 5, you don't understand why you can't get that out the store.
Right.
When you 23,
Mm-hmm.
when you 43 and you having a tantrum, right?
Mm.
We're not understanding that. And
Mm.
so what people don't realize, when persons are in domestic violence, or they're responding from an angry place, I bet I can trace that all the way back to when they was 4, 5. And we have memory even in utero, and people don't even realize that. Like, you can have anxiety if when your mom was pregnant with you, she was going through some type of
Mm-hmm. Trauma.
anxious or
Yeah.
traumatic
Yeah.
things, and that can affect the
Yep.
youth. Hmm.
Thank you so much. That is
Hmm.
just amazing. So I love the part where you say if you feel still feeling it, it ain't in the past. I hope y'all got that, because we still holding on to stuff from the past and we keep going back to the same thing. That means you never got free from, you never got delivered, and you need the help. You need the help that
Absolutely.
go to somebody, get some help, and start healing. All right,
Absolutely.
all right.
Yes.
Well,
And I
sure,
would
we're
like to
not
share
uh-huh.
one more thing
Oh
for
no,
those
okay.
who may be interested in learning more about the EMDR. Now, I also do a show entitled Stories of Heroes,
Mm-hmm.
and that airs on Facebook and YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And next week, Tuesday, I will actually have another therapist who's certified in EMDR who would actually be talking more in depth about that particular therapeutic process.
Okay. Well, where can we find you on Facebook
Mhm.
and
She had it
Instagram?
down scrolling at the bottom, so it's Lashanna Townsend,
Mhm.
Lashanna Townsend Alfred on Facebook, and
Okay.
it's Lashanna Alfred on YouTube. And they
Okay.
can even go in and see like previous episodes. I just had a young lady on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Tuesday this week, who lost her husband last
Mm.
year to a rare form of cancer. And she talks about how, traumatic that was for her and all of that. So Stories of Heroes is a platform that I created to help everyday individuals who have overcome some things to be able to share their story.
Well, thank you so much,
Mhm.
LaShonda. You have been an outstanding guest.
Thank you.
And I hope to have you back again because I'm getting a lot of feedback on the feeds right now of this awesome interview that we had tonight. And thank you so much again. I know you're a busy woman, and we appreciate you being here. So,
Yes.
all right, you guys, before you leave, I do have the wisdom tips for this week. So let us go ahead and share those wisdom tips that I often give you every week. Okay, we're talking about the ugly spirit of jealousy. So the first tip is acknowledge and openly talk about jealousy. Talk about it, whether you're the person that's jealous or that somebody is being jealous of you. If you notice jealousy feelings, talk about it. It might be a time for you to have a candid conversation if possible. Communication is the key. Don't hold on to it. LaShonda told us a lot of things we're still holding on to. And if you're still holding on to them, you ain't got free from them. In many instances, jealousy is an internal battle. So do some introspection, okay? Then share what you have discovered with somebody that you trust and be truthful about how you can feel or how you feel and what you are comfortable with and learn how to create boundaries, okay? So tip number one, acknowledge and openly talk about jealousy. Got that? Okay, wisdom tip number two, recognize that jealousy is usually a sign of insecurity. We talked about that earlier if you missed it. Jealousy is something we all feel at one point or another in our personal lives, feeling threatened by someone else or somebody done something to us. They don't treat us fairly. However, jealousy can turn into some kind of destructive force. And we talked about that in the beginning. Okay, if you're not careful, you'll be wanting to control the issue or control the person. Recognizing that jealousy is usually a sign of insecurity, we can help ourselves by once we realizing it, then be mindful of what we're doing and what we're saying and what we're thinking. Tip number three, work on managing your emotions. Work on managing your emotions. You can experience jealousy a lot in many different forms, but acknowledge it even when it's uncomfortable and ask for appropriate support without immediately misbehaving in any way or acting unseemly. You can grow and manage your emotions by learning how to recognize what you're feeling. I'm going back to that again. Acknowledge it. You have experienced it. Yes, go ahead and tolerate it. And if it's in the inside of you and you feeling it, get it out. Talk about it, like we said. Acknowledge it to yourself. Now, sometimes you don't even have to acknowledge somebody, just acknowledge to yourself, what you're doing. And number four, consider the big picture. Jealousy sometimes develops in response to partial pictures or words. You might be comparing yourself to a friend or somebody else that you want to be like. And then if you're feeling that way, then you should let it go because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You don't have to be like somebody else. Tip number five, practice gratitude for what you already have. We talked about that last week, the importance of practicing gratitude to God, because if he made us fearfully and wonderfully made, why would you want to be somebody else, right? Why would you want to be somebody else? It's like slapping God in the face. It's like saying, you didn't make me good enough. I want to be like somebody else. So a little gratitude goes a long way. It can not only reduce the feeling of jealousy, but it can also relieve stress. You might not have everything you want. Most of us don't, but you probably have at least some of what you want. Maybe you even have some good things in life and some bad things in life, but we still can thank God that we're here today on and able to breathe and see the sunshine and eat and enjoy our life. So in my closing, I just wanted you to say again, like we often say, we ain't got no time for tears and fears. Why? Because wisdom is the principal thing, and all that getting and get an understanding so you can live a victorious life. Okay? And go on out there and live a victorious life. Love you guys. See you next week.